Want to see more cool videos on our channel? We do, so press this bell and enable to send notifications.
People go missing all the time, and for various reasons. In our age of digital technology, the police can just use the Find My Phone app in most cases, and the stranded kid or teen will be found in no time. But what if a whole village or city would simply vanish in a single moment? Or even worse, an entire civilization? There's a chance that all of these mass disappearances have a logical explanation, but the circumstances are incredibly bizarre, to say the least. Number 5. Easter Island, 1722. Off the coast of Chile, 1,100 miles from the nearest island, lies Rapa Nui, which to Westerners is known as Easter Island. In 800 CE, Polynesian explorers arrived on this lush, 63-square-mile paradise. They began building. When the Europeans came in 1722, they discovered 400 statues, many 13 feet tall and as heavy as 14 tons, but almost no inhabitants. Easter Island was barren and empty. There are two prominent theories. Jared Diamond, author of Collapse and Guns, Germs, and Steel, contends that the Polynesians committed ecocide. There were too many of them, and they caused deforestation, cutting down palm trees, and even setting fire to grass, resulting in a lack of nutrient-rich soil. Another theory points to the Polynesian rat, which arrived at Easter Island via canoe, multiplying to such an extent it wiped out the seeds needed to grow vegetation. Let me know what you think happened in the comments section below. Number 4. Mary Celeste, 1872. On November 7, 1872, Captain Benjamin Briggs and the crew of the Mary Celeste, a merchant ship with a cargo of denatured alcohol, had left New York Harbor for Genoa, Italy. He brought 7 hand-picked crew along with his wife and daughter. They would never reach their destination. After leaving New York, the Mary Celeste battled its way through treacherous seas and howling winds for 2 weeks. Then, on November 25th, the captain entered what would be the last entry in the log. At the time, nothing was amiss. On December 5th, 1872, while sailing through rough water, the British brig De Gratia sighted a seemingly abandoned ship drifting through the Atlantic near the Azores Islands about 1,000 miles west of Portugal. When the crew of the De Gratia boarded the Mary Celeste, they found everything in perfect order, even with the crew's clothes neatly packed away. Yet no people anywhere to be found. What's more, the ghost ship was still seaworthy, and the crew of the De Gratia split up, and together the two ships sailed to Gibraltar, where they could claim salvage rights under maritime law. Why was the ship abandoned? It was perfectly seaworthy. There were 6 months of food and water aboard. The crew's belongings were stowed away. The captain would only abandon ship in the direst circumstances, and the circumstances certainly didn't seem dire. This would remain a mystery for nearly a century and a half. Some believed that the crew had drunk the alcohol and mutinied, but there was no sign of violence. Some said the ship must have been raided by pirates, but no valuables were missing. Arthur Conan Doyle's short story on the subject detailed an ex-slave capturing the ship. But where did he and everyone else go? Sea monsters and waterspouts were also proposed. Number 3. The village of Hoer Verde, 1923. The mysterious legend of Hoer Verde, the town with 600 inhabitants that vanished, is certainly confusing and troubling. This case will cause you to ask questions. Questions like, how can anything like that ever happen with absolutely no evidence to suggest anything unusual had happened? Like so many legends from the area, information on Hoer Verde is difficult to track down. But what information is accessible is not only disturbing, but incredibly perplexing. As visitors to the village entered the small town, they were immediately struck by how dead everything was. Unlike other villages of 600, no one was walking through the streets. Hanging signs waved in the gentle wind creaked noisily, juxtaposed with the uneasy footsteps and uneasy and subdued whispers of those passing through. As they passed by local houses and looked in the windows, it was evident immediately that something wasn't right. No one was anywhere to be seen. The police were called, and investigators descended on the town to look through the village. As they came to the town's school, they found a gun, which they took to be forensically examined. And when the investigators looked to the blackboard on which these words, "There is no salvation," were written, after a cursory examination, they realized it had been fired the day before, but by whom they were unsure. A manhunt ensued for the 600 villagers in the small town. Despite this, no trace of any of the locals were ever unearthed. To date, it is considered an unsolved mystery. Number 2. Roanoke Colony, 1587. The origins of one of America's oldest unsolved mysteries can be traced to August 1587, when a group of about 115 English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. Later that year, it was decided that John White, governor of the new colony, would sail back to England in order to gather a fresh load of supplies. But as he arrived, a major naval war broke out between England and Spain, and Queen Elizabeth I called on every available ship to confront the mighty Spanish Armada. In August 1590, White finally returned to Roanoke, where he had left his wife and daughter, his infant granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas, and the other settlers 3 long years before. He found no trace of the colony or its inhabitants, and few clues to what might have happened, apart from a single word, Croatoan, carved into a wooden post. Investigators into the fate of the lost colony of Roanoke have continued over the centuries, but no one has come up with a satisfactory answer. The most popular theory says that the Croatoan tribe killed the intruders. Other hypotheses hold that they tried to sail back to England on their own and got lost at sea, that they met a bloody end at the hands of the Spaniards who had marched up from Florida, or that they had moved further inland and were absorbed into a friendly tribe. Definitely something fishy here. Number 1. Flannan Isles Lighthouse Keepers, 1900. Lighthouses are usually extremely secluded places which dictate a solitary way of life, not suitable for everyone. Naturally, this isn't always a safe work environment, as emergency services are often not able to provide a quick response in case of an accident. So when 3 men working on a lighthouse in the Flannan Isles in the Outer Hebrides off the west coast of Scotland suddenly disappeared, not a single shred of evidence was ever found to point to what might have happened. And theories over the years claim the men were killed by pirates, eaten by seabirds, and even kidnapped by aliens. The lighthouse in which the disappearances took place was built in 1899 on one of the isles called Eilean Moor. The lighthouse has 3 workers, 2 regular and 1 occasional who rotated from the mainland. The island of Eilean Moor was uninhabited. The lighthouse served as an important link for guiding transatlantic ships towards the harbor in Leith, Scotland. However, on December 15, 1900, something odd happened. As the steamer Arctur, which was on its way from Philadelphia, passed by the Flannan Isles lighthouse, it noted that its light was not operational. It wasn't until the ship docked in Leith 3 days later that this irregularity was noticed. Due to horrible weather, the relief boat, stationed on a nearby island of Lewis, had to postpone its visit until December 26th, when it was finally concluded that the lighthouse had been unmanned for days. On arrival, the crew and relief keeper found that the flagstaff had no flag. All of the usual provision boxes had been left on the landing stage for restocking, and more ominously, none of the lighthouse keepers were there to welcome them ashore. Jim Harvey, the captain of Hesperus, attempted to reach them by blowing the ship's whistle and firing a flare, but was unsuccessful. A boat was launched, and Joseph Moore, the relief keeper, was put ashore alone. He found the entrance gate to the compound and the main door, both closed, the beds unmade, and the clock stopped. Returning to the landing stage with this grim news, he then went back up to the lighthouse with Hesperus's second mate and a seaman. A further search revealed that the lamps had been cleaned and refilled. A set of oilskins was found, suggesting that one of the keepers had left the lighthouse without them, which was surprising considering the severity of the weather on the date of the last entry in the lighthouse log. The only sign of anything amiss in the lighthouse was an overturned chair by the kitchen table. There was no sign of any of the keepers, neither inside the lighthouse nor anywhere on the island. Moore and 3 volunteer seamen were left to attend the light, and Hesperus returned to Lewis. Captain Harvey sent a telegram to the Northern Lighthouse Board dated 26 December 1900 stating, "A dreadful accident has happened at the Flannans. The 3 keepers, Ducat, Marshall, and the Occasional have disappeared from the island. The clocks were stopped, and other signs indicated that the accident must have happened about a week ago. Poor fellows. They must have been blown over the cliffs or drowned trying to secure a crane. No bodies were ever found, resulting in fascinated national speculation in newspapers and periodicals of the period. Implausible stories ensued, such as a sea serpent or giant seabird had carried the men away. They had arranged for a ship to take them away and start new lives. They had been abducted by foreign spies, or they had met their fate through the malevolent presence of a boat filled with ghosts. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoy the video, please let me know by clicking the like button. Do share, write a comment, and don't forget to subscribe so that you can catch up my next video.